The bourbon tastes like regret and burns just as much going down. I set the glass next to a stack of unpaid bills that's grown taller than my optimism, which isn't saying much these days. The numbers blur together in the yellow light of my desk lamp. 3 months behind on rent, 2 on the phone bill, and a collection notice from some credit card company that's probably already sold my debt to vultures. Outside, LA rain hammers against my office window like an angry ex-wife demanding answers I don't have. This used to be a real detective agency. Hell, I used to be a real detective. Now I'm a guy with a badge that doesn't mean anything and a license that barely keeps me in cheap liquor and ramen noodles. The office reflects my circumstances. Water stains on the ceiling that look like Rorschach tests for the desperate, a filing cabinet that leans like it's trying to escape, and a couch that's seen more broken dreams than a therapist's waiting room. The rain keeps coming. In Arizona, rain was a gift. Something you stood outside and let wash the desert dust from your skin. Here, it's just another burden, turning the city into a gray watercolor painting left out in the weather. I pour another finger of bourbon and try not to think about how I got here. The internal affairs investigation, the corruption I couldn't ignore, the choice between my badge and my conscience. Conscience won, which explains why I'm sitting in this dump instead of collecting a pension. The door rattles against its frame. I check my watch. Past 11 on a Tuesday night. Nobody visits honest private investigators this late, which is fine because I'm not sure I qualify as either honest or a real investigator anymore. The rattling becomes knocking, urgent and sharp. "We're closed," I call out, but the knocking continues. The woman who enters doesn't wait for an invitation. She's elegant in a way that makes my office look even shabbier, wearing a black coat that probably costs more than my rent and heels that click against the linoleum like a countdown timer. Her hair is pulled back in a style that suggests expensive salons and important meetings, but her eyes dart around the room like a bird looking for predators. "Detective Hunt?" Her voice carries a slight accent, something that might be Cuban or Colombian. "I need your help. It's just Hunt now, and we're closed." I lean back in my chair, studying her. She's nervous, that much is obvious, but there's something else. A kind of controlled desperation that makes my instincts twitch. "Come back tomorrow if you want to hire someone to follow your cheating husband." She flinches like I've slapped her. "How did you lucky guess?" "It's what I do." I gesture to the chair across from my desk. Most people don't dress up for midnight meetings unless they're trying to impress someone or convince themselves they're in control. You look like both. She sits carefully, knees together, purse clutched in her lap. "My name is Linda Vasquez. My husband is Miguel, and yes, I believe he's having an affair. But that's not why I'm here." I wait. Silence is a tool, and I've learned to use it well. People fill empty air with truth more often than they fill it with lies. "Someone is watching me," she continues, her voice dropping to barely above a whisper. "Following me. I think it has something to do with Miguel's business dealings." "What kind of business?" "Import-export. Mostly legitimate. The way she says it suggests mostly isn't good enough. But Miguel has connections, people who operate outside normal channels." I pour myself another bourbon and don't offer her one. "Mrs. Vasquez, I used to be a cop. I know what connections means. If your husband is mixed up with the kind of people who follow wives around, you should be talking to the FBI, not a washed-up ex-detective." Her laugh is bitter as the bourbon. "The FBI? Detective Hunt. I can't trust anyone in law enforcement. That's why I'm here." She reaches into her purse and pulls out a small velvet pouch, the kind that usually holds jewelry. Her hands shake slightly as she places it on my desk between us. "If something happens to me," she says, "if I disappear, follow the necklace." I open the pouch. Inside is a photograph, Miguel with another woman, but not in a hotel room or restaurant. They're in what looks like a warehouse, and Miguel is handing her something small and metallic. The woman is young, maybe early 20s, with the kind of desperate eyes you see in mugshots. There's also a key, old brass, ornate, the kind that might open a safe deposit box or an antique lock. It's warm from being against her skin. Where did you get this photo? I hired someone to follow Miguel, a private investigator like you. She meets my eyes for the first time since sitting down. He took that picture 2 days ago. Yesterday he was found dead in his car. The room feels smaller suddenly, the rain louder against the window. I set down my glass and really look at her. The way she sits forward like she's ready to run, the expensive coat that can't hide the tension in her shoulders, the wedding ring she keeps twisting around her finger. Mrs. Vasquez, if you think your husband killed a private investigator, why are you coming to another one? Because I don't think Miguel killed anyone. She stands up, smoothing her coat. I think someone else did, someone who doesn't want Miguel's activities investigated. And I think they know I hired the investigator. She's moving toward the door before I can respond, but she pauses with her hand on the handle. The retainer is $5,000, she says without turning around. Cash. It's in an envelope taped under your desk. Find out who killed David Morrison and why, and you'll have enough to pay your bills and maybe buy better bourbon. The door closes behind her with a soft click, and I'm alone with the photo, the key, and a feeling in my gut that suggests I should drink the rest of the bottle and forget she was ever here. Instead, I go to the window. The rain has slowed to a drizzle, and the streetlights cast everything in yellow pools of artificial warmth. Across the street, a black sedan idles at the curb, its engine running, windshield wipers moving in a steady rhythm. I watch Linda Vasquez walk to a silver BMW parked 2 blocks down, her heels echoing off wet pavement. The sedan's lights come on as she drives away, and it follows at a discreet distance. I should go home. I should finish the bourbon and pretend tonight never happened. I should do a lot of things that would keep me breathing and out of trouble. Instead, I grab my jacket and car keys. The envelope under my desk can wait. Right now, I need to know who's following my client and why they're not trying very hard to hide it. Some instincts you can't ignore, even when they're leading you straight into hell. My headlights cut through the rain like accusations through alibis, sharp, revealing, but never showing the whole truth. 3 cars back, I follow Linda's silver BMW through the maze of LA's midnight arteries, keeping enough distance to avoid notice, but close enough not to lose her in the maze of traffic lights and late-night wanderers. The black sedan is still there, a shadow playing the same game I am. Whoever's driving knows the rules. Stay back, blend in, don't get made. It's professional work, which makes me wonder what kind of trouble Linda Vasquez has stepped into. Or maybe what kind of trouble has stepped into her. We wind through Hollywood, past the tourists and dreamers, down into neighborhoods where the dreams have curdled and the neon promises more than it delivers. Linda drives like she knows where she's going, taking turns without hesitation, checking her mirrors more often than casual paranoia would warrant. The BMW finally slows near a motel that advertises hourly rates and asks no questions, the kind of place where affairs die and secrets are born. The motel's sign flickers between Paradise Inn and Paradsi Inn, creating a broken poetry that fits the neighborhood. Pink and blue neon reflects off the wet asphalt, turning the parking lot into a watercolor painting left out in the rain. Linda parks near the office and sits in her car for a full minute, watching the mirrors, checking the shadows. I kill my engine 2 blocks away and settle in to wait. The black sedan has vanished, which either means they've given up or they're better at this than I am. In my experience, people are usually better at things than I give them credit for, especially when those things involve violence and deception. The rain drums against my windshield in an irregular rhythm, like Morse code from a nervous operator. I pull out my old camera, a Canon that's older than some of the cops who used to work with me, and adjust the lens for the low light. Digital is fine for documenting divorce proceedings, but film has a weight to it, a permanence that feels right for whatever this is becoming. Linda emerges from her BMW like she's walking to her own execution. She's traded the elegant coat for something darker, more practical, but she still moves with the careful grace of someone who's spent money on deportment lessons. She heads for room 237, but she doesn't knock. Instead, she waits. The man who emerges from the shadows near the ice machine is not what I expected. Linda had described Miguel as her husband, a businessman with connections. This guy looks like he's spent more time dodging connections than making them. Early 30s, skinny as a deadline with the kind of pale complexion that suggests too much time indoors and not enough sunlight. His oversized hoodie hangs on him like borrowed clothes, and his eyes scan the parking lot with the constant vigilance of someone who's learned that relaxation can be fatal. Miguel Serrano. Has to be. But watching him move, watching the way he keeps to the shadows and checks every angle, I realize Linda lied about more than just his business dealings. This isn't her husband. This is her source. They meet near the motel's broken pool, a concrete crater that collects rainwater and broken dreams in equal measure. Their conversation is brief, urgent, and I'm too far away to hear the words. But body language speaks volumes, and theirs is screaming danger. Miguel keeps pointing toward the street, toward where the black sedan was parked. Linda shakes her head, pulls something from her purse. The necklace. Even from this distance, I can see it catch the neon light as she hands it to Miguel. It's not jewelry, it's information. Data. Whatever Miguel knows, whatever he's been feeding Linda, it's stored in something small enough to wear around your neck and valuable enough to kill for. That's when the situation goes sideways. Two men emerge from behind the motel office, moving with the kind of coordinated precision that screams law enforcement or high-end muscle. Miguel spots them first, grabs Linda's arm, tries to pull her toward the street. But they're already too close, and the exit routes are cutting off like arteries in a heart attack. The struggle is brief and violent. Miguel shoves Linda toward her car, yelling something I can't hear over the rain and distance. One of the men produces something that might be a badge or might be a gun. In the broken neon light, it's hard to tell the difference. I'm out of my car and moving before I realize I've made the decision. Some instincts are stronger than common sense, and the instinct to wade into other people's violence is one I've never been able to shake. It's probably why I'm a washed-up ex-cop instead of a comfortable retiree. Miguel breaks free from one of the men and runs straight toward me, his sneakers slapping against wet pavement like applause from a hostile audience. He doesn't see me until he's close enough to touch. And when he does, his eyes go wide with the kind of recognition that suggests my reputation has preceded me. Hunt? He gasps the name like a prayer. Jesus, what are you doing here? Before I can answer, he shoves an envelope into my jacket pocket, his fingers cold and shaking against my chest. Trust no one at the LAPD, he whispers. Morrison found something big, something that goes all the way to the top. They killed him for it. The sound of sirens cuts through the night air like a blade through silk, growing louder and closer. Miguel's head snaps toward the sound, and I see real fear in his eyes. Not the casual anxiety of someone who's broken a few laws, but the bone-deep terror of someone who knows exactly how deep the water is and can't swim. Linda's BMW roars to life across the parking lot. She's already moving, tires spinning on wet asphalt, not looking back. Miguel starts to run after her, then stops, turns back to me. The necklace, he says. It's not what she thinks it is. It's not evidence. It's a target. Anyone who has it becomes part of the pattern. Then he's gone, disappearing into the maze of side streets and broken promises that make up this part of the city. The sirens are close now, maybe 2 blocks away, and the men who were chasing Miguel have melted back into whatever shadows spawned them. I stand alone in the motel parking lot, rain soaking through my jacket, with an envelope in my pocket and more questions than answers. The Paradise Inn's broken sign flickers above me, and I realize that Linda Vasquez, whoever she really is, has just handed me something that people are willing to kill for. The smart play would be to walk away, toss the envelope in the nearest dumpster, go home, and pretend tonight never happened. But I've never been smart, and the envelope feels heavy with the weight of truth. Morrison is dead, Linda is running, and Miguel knows something that makes the LAPD nervous. In my experience, when cops get nervous, people get hurt. I light a cigarette and walk back to my car, the taste of smoke mixing with rain and the bitter aftertaste of bourbon. Tomorrow I'll open the envelope and follow wherever it leads. Tonight, I just want to go home and pretend I'm still the kind of man who walks away from other people's wars. The Lucky Break pool hall smells like 30 years of bad decisions and cigarettes that died slow deaths in ashtrays nobody bothered to empty. Smoke hangs in the air like guilt, thick enough to chew, coiling around the fluorescent lights that buzz with the persistence of a dying insect. The tables are warped from humidity and neglect, their green felt scarred by cigarette burns, and the kind of violence that comes with betting money you don't have on games you can't win. I push through the door and let my eyes adjust to the permanent twilight. The neon beer signs provide most of the illumination, painting everything in shades of red and blue that make the patrons look like they're already dead. A jukebox in the corner plays something that might have been country music before it got filtered through too much whiskey and regret. Miguel mentioned Carlos Serrano in passing last night, called him someone who knows the old stories. Finding him isn't hard. He's the nervous one in the corner booth, the one who keeps checking the exits like he's expecting bad news to walk through them any minute. Which, considering I'm here, he probably is. Carlos Serrano looks like he's been used as a punching bag by someone with commitment issues. His left eye is the color of week-old eggplant, and there's a cut on his lip that's trying to heal around the cigarette dangling from it. He's maybe 35, but the years have been unkind, carving lines around his eyes that speak of too much stress and not enough sleep. Two men lean against the wall near his table, trying to look casual and failing. They're the kind of muscle that comes with instructions and no questions asked. Thick necks, cheap suits, and the dead-eyed stare of men who've learned that violence is just another form of communication. I approach slowly, hands visible, trying to project the kind of calm authority I used to have when the badge meant something. Carlos spots me before I'm halfway across the room, and his good eye goes wide with recognition or terror. Sometimes there's no difference. Carlos Serrano? I slide into the booth across from him without waiting for an invitation. We need to talk. I don't know you, man. His voice carries the rasp of too many cigarettes and too much fear. And I don't talk to cops. I'm not a cop anymore. I light my own cigarette, buying time and trying to read his face. Miguel sent me. Said you might know something about a necklace that's causing people problems. The color drains from his face faster than water from a broken sink. He takes a long drag from his cigarette, holds the smoke like it might protect him from whatever's coming next. Miguel's got a big mouth, he says finally. Gets people hurt. People are already hurt. David Morrison's dead, and Miguel's running scared. Someone's cleaning house, and I think you know why. Carlos glances at his two bodyguards, then back at me. His hands shake slightly as he stubs out his cigarette in an ashtray that's seen better decades. When he speaks, it's barely above a whisper. The black pearl necklace. That what you're asking about? I nod and wait. Silence has always been my best interrogation tool. That thing's cursed, man. Not like supernatural cursed, but cursed with blood and cover-ups and the kind of secrets that kill people. He leans forward, lowering his voice even further. 20 years ago, maybe 25, there was a murder. High society type, found dead in her Bel Air mansion. Robbery gone wrong, that's what the papers said. But nothing was stolen except that necklace. Black pearls, real ones, worth maybe 200 grand. The kind of thing you wear to make other rich people jealous. Carlos's good eye flicks toward the door, then back to me. Major Crimes handled the case. Closed it fast, real fast. Too fast. I feel that familiar warmth in my chest, the uncomfortable heat I recognize as the proximity of truth. Who caught the case? Detective named Patterson. He's dead now. Car accident about 5 years later. Convenient timing. Carlos pulls another cigarette from a pack that's more empty than full. But he had a partner. Someone who kept copies of files, evidence, pictures. Someone who knew the whole thing stank like last week's fish. The cigarette trembles between his fingers as he lights it. Around us, the pool hall continues its slow-motion dance of desperation and small-time crime, but our conversation has created an island of tension that even the background noise can't penetrate. The partner still alive? Mac. Detective Sarah McCready. She's still working major crimes, still keeping secrets. Carlos takes a deep drag, blows smoke toward the ceiling. But here's the thing that'll cook your brain. The necklace turned up again 6 months ago. Someone's been showing it around, trying to fence it through the usual channels. He reaches into his jacket pocket, movements careful and deliberate, mindful of his watchdogs. What he pulls out is a scuffed piece of paper, folded small enough to hide in a closed fist. "Venice caper. Ask Mac," he says, sliding the note across the table. "That's all I know, and it's more than I should know. Morrison was asking the same questions you are, poking around the same corners. Look how that worked out for him." The note disappears into my jacket pocket like it's radioactive. Carlos is already standing, stubbing out his half-finished cigarette. "This conversation never happened," he says. "And if anyone asks, you never saw me." He's moving toward the back of the pool hall before I can respond, his bodyguards falling into formation like a well-rehearsed play. I give him a 30-second head start, then follow, my instincts screaming that something's wrong with the whole setup. The back door opens onto an alley that's narrow enough to make you claustrophobic and dark enough to hide a multitude of sins. The smell of garbage and rain-soaked concrete fills my nostrils as I step outside, eyes adjusting to the deeper shadows. Carlos Serrano is lying face down 20 feet away, his body twisted at an angle that suggests he didn't choose to be there. Blood pools beneath his head, mixing with rainwater to create an abstract painting that tells a story of violence and bad timing. I kneel beside him, checking for a pulse I know won't be there. The back of his skull is caved in, the kind of damage that comes from impact with something heavy and unforgiving, or someone determined. His pockets are empty except for a pack of cigarettes and some loose change. Whatever Carlos knew about the black pearl necklace, about the Venice caper, about Detective McCready, it died with him in this alley that smells like broken dreams and fresh death. I stand slowly, my knees protesting the movement, and look back toward the pool hall. The rear exit is dark, giving no hint of whoever walked through it after Carlos. Professional work, clean and quick, the kind that suggests resources and planning. The note in my pocket feels heavier now, weighted with the knowledge that Carlos died for giving it to me. "Venice caper, ask Mac." 3 words in a woman's name, but they might be the key to understanding why people keep dying around a necklace that should have stayed buried with its secrets. I walk back toward my car, leaving Carlos to whatever cleanup crew handles inconvenient bodies in alleys behind pool halls. Tomorrow, I'll find Detective Sarah McCready and ask her about Venice. Tonight, I need to figure out how many other people are going to die before this is over. The rain starts again as I reach the street, washing the city clean of sins it can't afford to remember. The LAPD headquarters squats downtown like a concrete monument to good intentions gone wrong, its brutalist architecture casting long shadows that stretch across the plaza like fingers reaching for something they'll never touch. Dusk has painted the sky the color of old bruises, and the building's windows reflect the dying light back at the city with the cold indifference of a bureaucracy that's seen too much and forgotten how to care. I haven't been inside this building since the day I turned in my badge, and walking through the plaza brings back the bitter taste of that morning, the smell of disinfectant and disappointment. The sound of my career ending with the soft thud of credentials hitting a desk. The security guards at the entrance recognize me, their expressions shifting from professional courtesy to something that might be pity or might be relief that they're not in my shoes. The lobby hasn't changed much. Same polished floors that echo with the footsteps of the guilty and innocent alike. Same recruitment posters that promise honor and service to kids who don't know better. Same steel detector that beeps with the regularity of a mechanical heartbeat. What has changed is my perspective. I'm no longer on the inside looking out, but on the outside looking in. And the difference feels like the gap between salvation and damnation. That's when I see her. Linda Carter moves through the revolving doors like she's walking through water, her movements careful and deliberate despite the two plainclothes cops flanking her like professional bookends. She's dressed in a charcoal suit that's seen better days, her red hair pulled back in a way that suggests she's been through processing but not booking.
Not yet.
Linda and I worked together for 3 years before the corruption investigation split us like a wishbone. She went one way, toward internal affairs and whistleblowing and the kind of righteous anger that burns bridges faster than gasoline. I went another, toward resignation and private investigation and the slow dissolution of everything I thought I believed about justice. She spots me before the cops do, and her eyes widen with something that might be hope or might be horror. It's hard to tell the difference when you're watching someone's career die in real time. "Hunt!" Her voice carries across the lobby despite the cops' attempts to hurry her along. "What are you doing here?" Before I can answer, one of her escorts, a thick-necked detective with the kind of mustache that went out of style with disco, puts a hand on her arm and tries to guide her toward the elevators. But Linda Carter never was good at being guided, and she shrugs off his grip with the practiced ease of someone who's spent years dealing with men who think authority means ownership. "I need to talk to Detective McCready," I call out, loud enough for everyone in the lobby to hear, "about Carlos Serrano." The effect is immediate and electric. The plainclothes cops freeze like they've been unplugged. Linda's face goes pale as yesterday's newspaper, and several uniforms turn their heads toward me with the kind of attention that makes your skin crawl. In the sudden silence, the steel detector's beeping sounds like a countdown timer. "Hunt!" The voice comes from behind me, carrying the weight of authority and the weariness of someone who's seen too many conversations like this one. I turn to find Detective Sarah McCready approaching, flanked by a man I recognize as Captain Barnes, a political animal who survived 3 police chiefs and more corruption scandals than anyone should have to. McCready looks exactly like what she is, a cop who's spent 20 years navigating the space between what's right and what's possible. Early 40s, athletic build despite the desk job, short dark hair that's gone gray at the temples faster than it should have. Her clothes are practical rather than fashionable, and her eyes hold the kind of intensity that suggests she's seen things that would break civilian hearts. "Detective McCready," I offer her a smile that neither of us believes. "We need to talk about an old case. Black pearl necklace, murder in Bel Air, about 25 years ago." Barnes steps forward before McCready can respond, his politician's instincts kicking in like an immune system fighting off infection. He's the kind of man who wears his authority like an expensive suit, perfectly fitted, carefully maintained, and designed to impress people who don't know better. "Mr. Hunt," he says, emphasizing the civilian title like it's a diagnosis. "You're not a police officer anymore. You don't have standing to discuss ongoing investigations." "Carlos Serrano's not ongoing anymore," I reply. "Someone caved in his skull about 2 hours ago, right after he told me about the Venice caper and suggested I ask Mac here about it." The color drains from McCready's face like water from a broken pipe. Barnes's expression doesn't change, but his eyes narrow slightly, and I realize I've just confirmed something he suspected but hoped wasn't true. "Carlos is dead?" McCready's voice is barely above a whisper. Very. Along with David Morrison and whoever else has been asking uncomfortable questions about that necklace. I light a cigarette despite the no-smoking signs, partly from habit and partly to buy time while I read the room. Someone's cleaning house, Detective. Question is whether you're part of the cleanup crew or just another target. Barnes puts a protective hand on McCready's shoulder, but she shrugs it off with the same motion Linda used on her escort. The gesture speaks volumes about the politics and pressure cooking inside this building. "Walk away, Hunt," Barnes says. "This isn't your case, isn't your jurisdiction, isn't your problem. It became my problem when someone started killing people to protect it." I take a long drag from my cigarette, blow smoke toward the fluorescent lights. "Carlos gave me a note before he died. 3 words and a name. Venice Caper. Ask Mac." "So I'm asking." McCready looks at Barnes, then at Linda Carter, who's been listening to every word despite her escort's best efforts to move her along. Something passes between the two women. A look of recognition, maybe, or shared understanding of the kind of trouble that comes from knowing too much about the wrong things. "Stay away from Venice Beach tonight," McCready says finally, her voice carrying equal parts warning and plea. "If you're smart, you'll stay away from Venice Beach altogether." The words hit me like a diagnosis I don't want to hear, not because they're unexpected, but because they confirm what I already suspected. Whatever happened in Venice, whatever the caper refers to, it's still happening, still dangerous, still worth killing for. Barnes is already moving, his political instincts telling him this conversation has gone too far in too public a space. He nods to Linda's escorts, who immediately resume their march toward the elevators. "This conversation is over," Barnes announces. "Mr. Hunt, you're trespassing. Security will escort you out." But I'm watching Linda Carter, watching the way her coat sleeves slip from the cop's grip as they guide her past the steel detector. She's not fighting them anymore, not resisting, but there's something in her posture that suggests she's made a decision. Something in the way she looks back at me that feels like a goodbye. As the elevator doors close behind them, I'm left with a choice that feels like standing at the edge of a cliff. Follow Linda deeper into the building, try to find out what she knows and why they're bringing her in. Or head to Venice Beach and find out what Detective McCready is so afraid of. The security guards are already moving toward me, their faces carrying the kind of apologetic professionalism that comes with evicting former colleagues. I drop my cigarette on the polished floor and grind it out with my heel, leaving a small black mark on the pristine surface. "Thanks for the warning, Detective," I call out as they escort me toward the exit. "I'll keep it in mind." But we both know I'm lying. "In my experience, when cops tell you to stay away from something, that's exactly where the truth is hiding." The plaza outside is darker now, the city lights beginning to flicker on like stars in a polluted sky. I stand for a moment in the shadow of the building that used to define my life, trying to decide which way to point my car. Venice Beach it is. Some warnings are meant to be ignored. The Venice Beach condo squats between its neighbors like a gap tooth in an otherwise perfect smile, its windows dark and unwelcoming against the backdrop of the Pacific's endless gray. The building is one of those modern glass and steel monuments to California optimism, the kind that promises ocean views and lifestyle upgrades to people with more money than sense. Tonight, it looks like exactly what it is, a place where secrets come to hide and die. I park 3 blocks away and walk back through the maze of side streets that connect Venice's beachfront fantasy to its inland reality. The lock on the front door is newer than the building, a deadbolt that speaks of recent security concerns and the kind of paranoia that comes with owning something people want to steal. But locks are just suggestions to people who know how to read them, and I've had 20 years of practice translating their language. The picks slide home with the soft precision of a surgeon's blade, each pin falling into place with a click that sounds like a whispered confession. The door swings open on hinges that have been oiled recently, which tells me someone's been maintaining this place despite its abandoned appearance. Inside, the condo smells like ocean salt and abandonment, with an undertone of something that might be fear. The furniture is covered in white sheets that give the living room the appearance of a ghost convention, and sand has tracked across the hardwood floors in patterns that suggest recent traffic. Moonlight filters through the floor-to-ceiling windows, painting everything in shades of silver and shadow that make the space feel like a photograph of itself. I follow the sand trail through the living room toward what must be the master bedroom, my footsteps muffled by carpet that's expensive enough to absorb sound and secrets in equal measure. That's when I hear it. The soft scrape of metal against metal, the kind of sound that makes your survival instincts sit up and pay attention. Miguel Vasquez stands in the bedroom doorway like a man who's been expecting bad news for so long that good news would probably kill him. He's holding a .38 revolver in a two-handed grip that suggests familiarity but not comfort, and his eyes have the wide, darting quality of someone who's been awake too long on too much adrenaline. "Don't move," he says, but his voice carries more desperation than authority. "I don't know who sent you, but I'm done running." I raise my hands slowly, keeping my movements visible and non-threatening. "Miguel, we met last night at the Paradise Inn. Riley Hunt. You gave me an envelope and told me to trust no one at the LAPD. Recognition flickers across his face like a candle in the wind. The gun wavers slightly but doesn't drop. "Hunt? Jesus, what are you doing here? How did you find me?" "Carlos Serrano told me about the Venice caper before someone caved in his skull." I take a careful step forward, watching his trigger finger for signs of panic. "He said to ask Mac about it, but Mac told me to stay away from Venice Beach. So naturally, here I am." Miguel's laugh is brittle as old bones. "Carlos is dead? Shit. Shit, shit, shit." He lowers the gun slightly, but doesn't holster it. "They're killing everyone who knows about the necklace. Everyone who can connect it to the original murder." "Then tell me about it. Help me understand what's worth killing for." He runs his free hand through hair that's already standing in directions that suggest he's been doing it for hours. The black pearl necklace belonged to Victoria Hartwell, socialite, philanthropist, the kind of woman who threw parties for senators and slept with judges. Someone murdered her 25 years ago, made it look like a robbery. But the necklace wasn't stolen. It was planted. Evidence in another case, something that would have exposed a network of corrupt cops and politicians who were using Hartwell's parties to arrange favors. Miguel's voice drops to barely above a whisper. The murder was a cover-up. Kill the source, bury the evidence, blame it on a robbery gone wrong. The pieces start falling into place like dominoes in reverse, building a picture instead of tearing one down. And now the necklace has surfaced again. Someone found it. Someone who doesn't know what it really represents, who's trying to fence it through normal channels. Miguel moves to the window, peers through the blinds at the street below. But the people who buried it the first time, they know what it means. They know it can destroy careers, pensions, reputations, lives. Where is it now? Miguel turns back to me, and I see something in his eyes that looks like hope mixed with terror. That's the thing, Hunt. I don't have it. Linda Vasquez took it from me after our meeting. Said she needed to get it somewhere safe, somewhere they'd never look for it. And where's that? She wouldn't tell me. Said it was better if I didn't know, safer for both of us. He lets out a bitter laugh. Looks like she was wrong about the safer part. That's when the patio door explodes inward in a shower of tempered glass and twisted metal. The figure who crashes through moves with the fluid precision of someone who's done this before, black clothing and a ski mask that turns him into a shadow with deadly intent. The silencer on his pistol catches the moonlight as he swings it toward Miguel, but I'm already moving, already diving across the space between us like a linebacker chasing a fumble. We hit the floor together, Miguel's gun spinning away across the hardwood as the masked intruder's first shot punches a hole in the wall where Miguel's head had been. I roll, trying to put furniture between us and the shooter, but he's already adjusting, already tracking our movement with the cold efficiency of a professional. The second shot splinters the coffee table I'm hiding behind, sending wooden shrapnel into my cheek like angry wasps. Miguel scrambles toward his lost gun, but it's too far away, too exposed, and the masked man is already moving to cut off the angle. I launch myself at the shooter's legs, hitting him low and hard, and we go down in a tangle of limbs and violence that speaks the universal language of desperation. His mask tears as we struggle, pulling away from his face like a bandage from a wound, and what I see underneath makes my blood freeze in my veins. A badge, LAPD shield clipped to his belt, catching the light like a promise that's been broken too many times to count. The face above it is young, maybe early 30s, with the kind of clean-cut features that suggest academy training and dead eyes, that suggest something died inside him a long time ago. He brings the gun around toward my head, but Miguel appears from nowhere, swinging a table lamp like a club. The impact sends the corrupt cop sprawling, his weapon skittering across the floor toward the shattered patio door. "Move!" Miguel shouts, grabbing my arm and hauling me toward the window. "They'll have backup coming." The window gives way under our combined weight, glass showering around us like deadly confetti as we tumble through into the alley behind the building. I hit the pavement hard, feeling something in my shoulder protest the impact, but adrenaline carries me to my feet and toward the maze of service roads that connect Venice Beach to the rest of the city. Behind us, the corrupt cop is already on his feet, already reaching for his backup weapon, already calling for reinforcements on a radio that crackles with official authority turned toxic. We run through the narrow alley, past dumpsters and abandoned shopping carts, past the detritus of dreams that didn't quite make it to the ocean. My shoulder throbs with each step, and Miguel's breathing sounds like a broken bellows. But we keep moving because stopping means dying, and dying means the truth stays buried. It's only when we reach my car, only when we're 3 blocks away and heading inland, that Miguel speaks. "The necklace," he says, his voice hollow with defeat. "It's gone. Linda had it, but now?" He trails off, staring out the passenger window at the city lights bleeding past us like fallen stars. "Now someone else has it," I finish. "Someone who knows exactly what it's worth, and exactly how many people they're willing to kill to keep it buried." The radio in my car crackles with police chatter, reports of shots fired in Venice Beach, an APB for 2 suspects fleeing the scene. They have our descriptions, our general direction, and the full weight of official corruption behind them. Miguel slumps in his seat like a man who's just realized he's been playing chess against someone who owns the board. "What do we do now, Hunt?" I light a cigarette with hands that are steadier than they should be, considering what we've just survived. "Now we figure out who Linda Vasquez really is, and where she's hidden a necklace that's worth more than money. It's worth the truth." The city spreads out before us like a circuit board of secrets and lies, each light representing someone who knows something they shouldn't, someone who's seen something they wish they hadn't, someone who's 1 step away from becoming a statistic in a case that will never officially exist. In the rearview mirror, Venice Beach disappears behind us, but the ghost of what happened there follows us into the night like smoke from a fire that refuses to die. The rooftop tastes like exhaust and broken promises, 20 stories above a city that never learned the difference between ambition and desperation. Dawn bleeds through the smog like hope through a lie, painting downtown LA in shades of amber and regret. The building beneath my feet hums with the electricity of 10,000 secrets, each office window a confession waiting to be heard by someone who still believes in justice. I lean against the rooftop's edge, feeling the wind carry the weight of everything that's gone wrong in the past 3 days. The black pearl necklace sits heavy in my jacket pocket, its presence as constant as guilt and twice as dangerous. Miguel's words echo in my memory like a prayer spoken in a language I'm still learning to understand. The truth is worth dying for, but living with lies will kill you slower. The stairwell door opens with the soft protest of metal against metal, and Linda McCready emerges like a woman walking to her own trial. She's traded her courtroom armor for civilian clothes, jeans, a windbreaker, sneakers that suggest she's prepared to run if necessary. Her red hair catches the early light, but her face carries the pallor of someone who's spent too many nights lying awake, counting the cost of secrets. A hunt. She approaches carefully, hands visible, eyes scanning the rooftop like she's expecting snipers. This better be worth it. I'm risking everything being here. Everything's already at risk, I reply, not moving from my position against the ledge. Carlos Serrano is dead. David Morrison is dead. Miguel's running for his life, and someone wearing an LAPD badge tried to put bullets in both of us last night. She stops 15 feet away, close enough for conversation, but far enough to bolt if the situation turns ugly. Her laugh carries no humor, just the bitter recognition of a plan that's gone sideways beyond all hope of recovery. You think I don't know that? You think I haven't been watching my back since Morrison first contacted me about the necklace? Linda pulls a cigarette from her jacket, lights it with hands that tremble just enough to betray her nerves. I've been a target since the day I agreed to help him dig into the Hartwell murder. The stairwell door opens again, and Detective Sarah McCready steps onto the rooftop like she's entering a crime scene that hasn't happened yet. She moves with the careful precision of someone who's learned that survival depends on reading every angle, every shadow, every possibility for violence before it manifests. Her service weapon is holstered but accessible, and her eyes carry the weight of 20 years spent navigating the space between law and justice. Mac, I nod toward her, keeping my voice neutral. Glad you could make it. This is insane, Hunt. McCready approaches slowly, positioning herself so she can see both the stairwell and the fire escape. Meeting like this, out in the open. Barnes has half the department looking for you. Good. Maybe some of them are still honest enough to want the truth. I pull the necklace from my pocket, letting it catch the light like a promise made of shadow and regret. The black pearls seem to absorb the dawn rather than reflect it, each one a small void that speaks of deeper darkness. Let's start with this. 25 years ago, someone murdered Victoria Hartwell for it. Not for money, not for passion, but to bury what it represents. Linda takes a long drag from her cigarette, blows smoke toward the city spreading below us like a circuit board of broken dreams. Victoria Hartwell was more than a socialite, she says finally. She was a facilitator. Her parties weren't just social events. They were marketplaces where cops sold information, judges sold verdicts, and politicians sold their souls. McCready's face goes pale as yesterday's promises. Linda, you can't. I can, and I will. Linda's voice carries the steel of someone who's made peace with burning bridges. My husband isn't just being blackmailed, Hunt. He's being controlled. Has been for 20 years, ever since he was a young prosecutor who stumbled onto evidence of the corruption network. The pieces fall into place like dominoes arranged by a careful hand. The necklace was evidence. Recording device? McCready confirms, her voice barely above a whisper. Hartwell wore it to every party, every meeting. 25 years of conversations, 25 years of deals that would have destroyed careers, ended lives, brought down a network that went all the way to the mayor's office. So they killed her for it, I say. Detective Patterson and I caught the case, McCready continues. Found the necklace in Hartwell's safe, along with enough evidence to prosecute half the city's power structure. But Captain Barnes, he was Lieutenant Barnes then, he made it disappear. Said it was too dangerous, too politically sensitive. Linda's cigarette trembles between her fingers like a confession that wants to be spoken. Patterson didn't agree with the cover-up. He kept copies, backups, insurance. When he died 5 years later, the files went to my husband, who was supposed to destroy them. But he didn't. Couldn't. The guilt was eating him alive, but destroying the evidence felt like being complicit in murder. Linda drops her cigarette, grinds it under her heel like she's crushing the last of her illusions. When Morrison contacted him about investigating the Hartwell case, my husband saw it as a chance for redemption. The wind picks up, carrying the scent of ocean salt and urban decay, mixing the promises of the coast with the reality of the streets. Below us, the city begins its daily resurrection, traffic flowing like blood through arteries that have hardened with age and cynicism. Morrison found something new, McCready says. Someone was trying to fence the necklace, someone who didn't know what it really was. He traced it back to evidence storage, discovered it had been reported destroyed but never actually disposed of. Barnes, I say. Barnes kept it as insurance, leverage against the network he helped create. McCready's hand moves unconsciously toward her weapon. But when Morrison started asking questions, making connections, Barnes realized the necklace had become more dangerous than useful. That's when the stairwell door explodes open like a dam bursting under pressure. Captain Barnes emerges flanked by 4 officers in tactical gear, their weapons drawn and ready, faces hidden behind visors that reflect the city's awakening light like mechanical eyes. Barnes himself moves with the confident authority of someone who's learned that power is more important than justice, corruption more profitable than honesty. "Drop the necklace, Hunt," Barnes calls out, his voice carrying across the rooftop like a death sentence. "Drop it and maybe we can work something out." But I'm already moving, already diving toward the fire escape as gunfire erupts behind me like thunder in a desert storm. The necklace burns in my grip as I slide down the metal stairs, feeling bullets spark off concrete and steel around me like deadly rain. Above me, the rooftop erupts into chaos. Voices shouting orders and accusations, the sound of justice dying one more time in a city that's forgotten how to grieve for its own innocence. The alley tastes like garbage and second chances, its narrow walls closing around us like the embrace of a city that's learned to hide its wounded in whatever shadows it can provide. Morning sun breaks through the smog overhead, casting everything in harsh relief that makes the blood on Linda's forehead look darker than it should, more final than either of us wants to acknowledge. We huddle behind a dumpster that reeks of dreams that died before they had a chance to rot properly, our breathing ragged as broken promises. Linda presses a torn piece of her windbreaker against the gash above her left eye, the fabric already soaked through with blood. That's the color of old wine and fresh regret. She escaped the rooftop through the same fire escape I did, but not before Barnes's men got close enough to leave their mark. A ricochet or flying concrete. In situations like that, violence becomes academic, and the only grade that matters is whether you're still breathing when the test is over. "Jesus, Hunt." Her voice carries the exhaustion of someone who's run too far on adrenaline and determination. "What do we do now?" Barnes has the whole department looking for us. We're fugitives, cop killers in their eyes. We didn't kill anyone. You think that matters? You think Barnes won't spin this however he needs to protect his network? Linda leans back against the brick wall, closes her eyes like she's trying to shut out a world that's proven too ugly to look at directly. My husband's career is finished. My career is finished. And for what? A necklace that's already cost more lives than it's worth? I pull the black pearl necklace from my jacket, hold it up to the light filtering down between buildings that have seen too much history to remember any of it with accuracy. Each pearl catches the sun like a small promise, but promises are just words dressed up in hope, and hope has been in short supply lately. "This isn't just evidence," I say. "It's justice. 25 years of waiting for someone to care enough to tell the truth. Justice? Linda's laugh tastes like smoke and disappointment. Look around, Hunt. You see any justice in this alley? You see justice in hiding behind garbage while corrupt cops hunt us like animals? The sound of sirens grows closer, echoing off the walls like the mechanical heartbeat of a city that's forgotten how to feel. Somewhere above us, helicopters circle with the patience of mechanical vultures, their rotors chopping the air into fragments that fall around us like broken promises. Barnes is thorough, I'll give him that. When you're covering up 25 years of corruption, you don't leave loose ends flapping in the wind. Riley. Linda's voice drops to barely above a whisper, and when I look at her, I see something in her eyes that looks like the moment hope dies. I have kids, 2 daughters, 8 and 10. They're staying with my sister in Phoenix, but if Barnes decides I'm too dangerous to leave alive... She doesn't finish the sentence, but she doesn't need to. We both know how men like Barnes solve problems that threaten their carefully constructed kingdoms of graft and murder. Children become leverage, families become collateral damage, and justice becomes whatever serves the interests of power. Keep me safe, she continues. Take the necklace, bury it somewhere deep, and let's disappear. Change our names, start over, become people who never heard of Victoria Hartwell or Captain Barnes or black pearl necklaces that record conversations between devils. I feel that familiar warmth in my chest, the uncomfortable heat I recognize as guilt mixed with something that might be conscience or might just be stubborn pride. The smart play would be to listen to her, to take the path that leads to breathing instead of bleeding, survival instead of satisfaction. But I've been making smart plays for 3 years now, and all it's gotten me is a cheap office and cheaper bourbon. My phone feels heavy in my pocket, weighted with possibility and consequences in equal measure. I pull it out, scroll through contacts until I find the number I'm looking for. Danny Reeves, investigative reporter for The Times, the kind of journalist who still believes that truth can overcome power if you shine enough light on it. What are you doing? Linda's eyes go wide with recognition and terror. What I should have done 25 years ago when I first became a cop. I dial the number, listen to it ring once, twice. What I should have done 3 years ago when I found out about the corruption in my own department. Hunt, don't. Please, think about what you're doing. But I'm past thinking, past calculating odds and consequences and the mathematics of survival. Danny's voice crackles through the phone like salvation transmitted through copper wire and digital compression. Reeves? Danny, it's Riley Hunt. I've got a story for you, exclusive, but you need to move fast. 25 years of police corruption, murder, cover-ups that go all the way to the top. Linda grabs my arm, her fingers digging into muscle like claws, trying to stop time itself. Riley, no. They'll kill us both. Meet me at the corner of 5th and Spring in 20 minutes, I continue. Bring a camera, bring a recorder, bring whatever you need to document the kind of truth that usually gets buried with the people who try to tell it. I end the call and look at Linda, seeing fear and admiration warring in her expression like opposing armies fighting over territory that might not be worth claiming. The sirens are closer now, maybe 3 blocks away and closing fast. Through the gap between buildings, I can see the shadows of uniforms moving with the systematic precision of a dragnet designed to catch everything in its path. Barnes isn't taking chances, which means he's more desperate than I gave him credit for. This is suicide, Linda whispers. Maybe, but it's honest suicide, and that's more than I can say for the last 3 years of my life. I stand slowly, my knees protesting the movement, and my shoulder reminding me of last night's violence with sharp authority. The necklace goes back into my jacket pocket, where it sits against my ribs like a promise I'm finally ready to keep. The mouth of the alley opens onto Spring Street like a wound opening onto daylight. And beyond it, the city spreads in all directions with the indifferent vastness of something too big to care about individual stories of redemption or damnation. But sometimes individual stories are all we have, and sometimes they're enough. I step into the sunlight, feeling the weight of 25 years of silence lifting from my shoulders like a burden I never realized I was carrying. Behind me, Linda McCready huddles in the shadows, making her own choice between survival and truth. Ahead of me, Danny Reeves waits with a camera and questions that might finally get the answers they deserve. The case is closed, but the city remains full of secrets. In my experience, that's the best you can hope for. One truth at a time, one story at a time, one step toward something that might eventually resemble justice if you squint hard enough and believe in things that probably don't exist. But belief is all we have sometimes, and sometimes it's enough.